Hey everyone, this is Emmanuel here. We're still working on this beautiful book called The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson, and we are doing a page-by-page commentary on this book. This is the book that changed my life. It changed Carson's lives, many emotion code practitioners' lives. And so we're going to get started on page 38, and you can because of my sultry voice, I'm just joking, but you can read along with me. So I did this on purpose. We started this early on just because we wanted to again help people to just see kind of from our experience. We've worked with close to 800, 900 people, and so we just kind of wanted to add our input to it. Obviously this book is perfect as it is, but like I said, it's nice to maybe hear from some emotion code or a body code practitioner, which is Karsten. Hopefully you watched the video before this, which has to do with muscle testing. He was doing the sway test right before this. So now we're going to get into trapped emotions. So let's look at page 38. Do you have a trapped emotion? So as soon as you think you have the hang of it, which is talking about muscle testing, you are ready to put the sway test to good use. Make this statement: I have a trapped emotion. Your body will most likely sway forward, giving you an affirmative answer that you have at least one trapped emotion. So it's pretty cool. You can just, something as simple as that is, do I, like, I think if I were an emotion code practitioner, I tell people all the time to do that sway test just because it's a good way to show that their body does react to certain things. But it's not necessary. I really feel like muscle testing at a distance and removing someone's pain and things like that, that makes it very obvious that this is real. I always ask people, like, hopefully they have some type of pain, not because I wish it upon them, but because it's very tangible if it lowers. So if you're doing free sessions out there, you're doing muscle testing at a distance, try to see if they have any type of pain. And I tell people to move around, move your shoulders, move your neck, because they might say, no, I have no pain, Emmanuel, but the reality is they do, but you just have to kind of wake it up from their body. So, but yeah, these are great things to do if, like, to kind of show someone the power of muscle testing. So, if your body sways backward, don't assume that you are free of trapped emotions just yet. This may mean that your trapped emotions are buried a bit deeper. It might take a little bit more effort to uncover, but it's not a problem. I will discuss how to find and release this type of trapped emotion later on. So what trapped emotions are made of? Everything in the universe is made of energy, whether that energy manifests in physical form or remains invisible. It is the particular arrangement of these energies and their specific rates of vibration that determine how they will appear to us. At the most basic level, everything that exists is made of the same stuff. By the way, we're on page 38 now. We're going to page 39. Not only are you made of energy, but other forms of energy are passing through your body at this very moment. Energy that we cannot see is all around us in the form of radio waves, X-rays, infrared, thought waves, and emotions. I know Russell Brand, kind of a funny guy, but he talks about kind of like how we only see from the five senses. And so there's so many things happening around us: radio waves, X-rays, infrared waves, and we don't see them. So is it too much to say that we have these things called trapped emotions, these energies? And what's kind of cool is they're probably going to talk about it later on, obviously, about like more information about trapped emotions. But I love, this is a kind of a cool test, I just kind of want to throw it out there. I love the fact that if someone's like, if you as an emotion code practitioner want to experience what a trapped emotion feels like, I've seen Dr. Bradley Nelson push down on someone's arm and say, so for example, let's say we found sadness, and then you muscle tested. Like if you look at the muscle testing sheet, which I don't have around me right now. Oh, here it is. Let's say you go through the muscle testing sheet, and let's say you see, for example, anger, and then you muscle tested it that it's around the liver area. You're like, is it in the gallbladder? Your body said, you muscle tested, and the body said, no, it's in the liver. So now you know where you can kind of guess where the liver area is on the body. And then what you do is you put your hand close to the liver area while you're kind of simultaneously pushing on the person's arm. He's like, okay, I want you to really hold your arm strong. And he's pushing down the arm, and then he basically started going closer and closer to the liver area in the body. And as he was doing that, all of a sudden, like in 2 seconds, or it took a little bit of time, the arm went weak. It went really weak very fast. And he was saying that whenever you touch a trapped emotion, the body goes weak. And he says that it feels like somebody blowing wind on your hand. So this is another good way. Like if you want to increase your testimonial, is if you do meet with someone, try to see if you can feel their trapped emotion. I think, again, it'll just increase your testimony that this is real, that there's an actual energy bubbling near the skin that wants to be released, and you can actually feel it before you release it if you like. So we are like fish swimming in sea of energy. Energy is the material from which all things are made. It is in all things and through all things and fills the inner spaces of the universe. We can feel energy when it is in the form of emotions, and if negative emotional energies become trapped within us, they may adversely affect us. Trapped emotions are made up of energy, just as energy makes up our bodies and everything else in the universe. So we're all energy, right? Where our emotions come from. Thousands of years ago, ancient physicians were astute observers of the human body. They found that people whose lives were dominated by certain emotion would have corresponding physical ailments. For example, people whose lives were ruled by anger seemed to suffer from liver and gallbladder trouble. People who spend their lives feeling grief would often suffer from lung or colon trouble. Fearful people seem to have kidney and bladder problems. Eventually, a correlation was made between the emotions we experience. Now, if you see this, what's cool, later on you'll get to learn about this emotion code chart. Dr. Bradley Nelson, with his wisdom, he just put these emotions. I don't know if you could see this, but he put like heart or small intestines. So anything that's in the column A, row 1 section, or column B, row 1 section, you can actually, these 5 emotions here, these 10 emotions here, will either be around the heart area or around the intestines area. These 10 will either be around the spleen or the stomach area. So that's kind of how this chart's organized. It's kind of cool that he put the organ that it correlates with, but it could be 2 different ones, so 2 different options. And you can muscle test that. If someone's like, where does this come from? You can be like, well, let me see. And you can muscle test it, and it'll test in the affirmative to one organ. So for example, people's, okay, so eventually a correlation was made between the emotions we experience and the various organs of the body. It was believed that the organs themselves actually produce the emotions that people felt. In other words, if you're feeling the emotion of fear, your kidneys or bladder are creating that particular energy or vibration. If you're feeling grief, it's being produced by your lungs or your colon, and so on. Of course, we know that certain areas of the brain are activated when we feel certain emotions. We also know that there's a biochemical component to the emotions that we feel. Dr. Candace Pert, in her book Molecules of Emotion, clearly explains that this biochemical side of our nature, which is perfectly valid. So there's an energetic side to our nature as well. There's an energetic component to our emotions that is only now beginning to be explored and correlated by modern science. So this is really still cutting edge in regards to like how emotions affect our mental state, spiritual state, our physical state. This is very cutting edge. That's why a lot of, when I speak to doctors, like my father's a doctor, my mother's a doctor, my mother was a little bit more open-minded, but the reality is that this is still very, very cutting edge. So if you have some friends that don't really believe in this, don't get it, it's like, that's very normal. Just we haven't reached what they call critical mass. Critical mass is when, like, it's called the tipping point, when 2 people actually say to each other, you don't have that, you don't have that. It's kind of like when cell phones kind of were like, cell phone, why would you do a cell phone? All of a sudden they're like, wait, I have a cell phone. It's like, wait, my friend has a cell phone. When 2 people that know each other have a cell phone, that's when critical mass kind of just explodes. And basically everyone, like, it's like more pairs of people start knowing about cell phones, and then they spread, and then it goes from 2% to like boom, like 80% in like 10 years. We haven't reached that yet. We're still at the point where there's one person who knows about the body code and no one in the family knows about it, or the emotion code. So so it's okay, just letting you know, like, a lot of these things, even though they're talking about different doctors that support these things, all this stuff, the reality is that most people don't know, or don't know about it. So it's kind of a great space to be in, to be honest. After much experience gained from clinical practice, I'm convinced that the organs of the body really do produce the emotions we experience. The ancient physicians were right. If you're feeling an emotion of anger, it's not coming entirely from your brain. It's actually emanating from your liver or gallbladder. If you're feeling the emotion of betrayal, the emotion is emanating from your heart or your small intestines. Remember that we used to think the body and the mind were separate and distinct, but their dividing line is now blurred to the point where we don't know where the influence of one begins and the other ends. Your entire body is intelligent, not just your brain. Your organs are separate intelligences within your body that perform certain functions and produce specific emotions or feelings. People are usually surprised to learn that the various organs in our bodies produce the emotions that we feel. Yet there are correlations to this principle in life that are quite distinct, although they escape the attention of most physicians. Did trapped emotions kill Dana Reeve? Okay, so we're going to keep going here. I think we're going to get to page 45. Yeah, we get to page 45. We all remember the tragic, that's my dog, by the way, it's a Doberman. We all remember the tragic injury that have rendered actor Christopher Reeve quadriplegic. We were touched by the unfailing devotion of his wife, Dana, and were shocked and saddened when she died. It was only 10 months after her husband's death that she announced to the world that she had lung cancer, and 7 months later she died at age 44. Dana Reeve was a non-smoker who died of lung cancer, and although conventional wisdom holds that her death was due to secondhand smoke, I believe otherwise. The lungs produce the emotion we call grief. And an overabundance of grief will certainly lead to the creation of trapped emotions, often affecting the parent organ. Dana certainly had reasons to grieve, and I believe that trapped emotions, grief among others, were at least partly responsible for her death, and perhaps entirely responsible for it. The angry drunk. Another example can be found in a way that alcohol affects people. I always tell people all the time that anger, bitterness, guilt, hatred, resentment come from the liver area. That's why when you tend to drink alcohol, anger, bitterness, guilt, hatred, resentment, that's the box, one of the boxes, comes out. We all know that people who become alcoholics often die of liver disease, but we also know that many people who drink can become quite angry and violent under the influence. Alcohol is broken down and processed by the liver, and too much alcohol overstimulates the liver. When you overstimulate or overload an organ, it will produce more of the emotion that is designed to produce. The liver produces feelings of anger. This is the mechanism that is often at work when drinking results in violence. Yeah, so interesting enough that alcohol is something that is basically overloading the organ, and so it'll produce the emotion, kind of like it'll make it erratic. If you have an organ that is diseased, overstimulated, or imbalanced in some way, the emotions related to that organ will often be heightened. So trapped emotions are always found to have emanated from a particular organ, no matter where that trapped emotion lodges in the body. For example, a trapped emotion of anger may have originally emanated from your liver, but it may become lodged literally anywhere in your body. Correlations between the organs and our emotions are both fascinating and important to understand how our bodies really work. It all goes back to the ancient art of healing. So energy healing is one of the oldest practices known in the world today. Since 4000 BC, healers have understood that our health greatly depends on the quality of energy that flows through and makes up our bodies. In Chinese medicine, the energy is called qi, or qi. In ancient Indian or Ayurvedic medicine, the energy is called prana. Imbalance of this part of our existence may deeply affect our physical and mental health. I think that's one of the most egotistical things that we could do as a society is that we think that we're the most advanced civilization when there's other civilizations before us that did very, very well. But the fact that they had less, the fact that there was no big pharma, the fact that they didn't have manipulative businessmen that had not the greatest desire to help mankind, but just to make a profit off our weaknesses, to make a profit off depression, to make a profit off our symptoms. That's what they're there for. And so in those civilizations, perhaps they were all really looking out for each other. And so the healing was a lot more simple. Go to the rainforest, find things that, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this chart of fruit that basically matches certain parts, some organs in your body. You don't think that's kind of a coincidence that there's like multiple like rows of fruits that the way they look like, the almond or the date, like they look like certain organs in your body, almost as if God's saying, if you go reach out there in the forest and find this, and if you were even a doctor back then in the day, like, if someone were to die, they would, open up and review the body and do anatomy things. They would know what an organ looks like. They would know like the size of it and everything like that. If that doctor were to go to the rainforest, they could organize it to be like, okay, this kind of looks like this organ. This looks like this organ, and those actually benefit that organ. I don't find that to be a coincidence, and so it's almost like working with less provided them with more. And I think we're like, we're so running so fast that people just realize, like, how can we profit off people and then that's kind of where corruption came in, you know. But I think the past had it. I think these tribes, you know, 4,000 BC had it before, and then we lost it due to greed, basically. I think that's my opinion. We can't compare the energy to electricity. We can't see electricity, but we can feel it. Electricity is colorless and odorless. It's invisible, yet certainly is real. If you ever stuck your finger in a light socket or been shocking the toast out of the toaster, then you'll know what I mean. You may not be able to see it, but it's definitely there. As human beings, we're used to perceiving things in a way that conforms to our belief systems. We form our beliefs about the physical world at an early age. We learn that if we fall off the monkey bars at school, we will meet the ground with a painful thud. Yet we could never imagine that both the ground and the monkey bars, as solid as they seem to us, are actually made of vibrating energies. We may like to think that the world around us is exactly as we are used to seeing it, but Einstein, Tesla, and others have shown us the universe is really much more complex and wonderful than we can ever possibly imagine. All right, we're going to read this last part here and then we're done. The quantum world. You must remember that old saying, I know it like the back of my hand, but how well do you really know the back of your hand? Take a look at it. Your eyes see the surface of your skin with its wrinkles, fingernails, and little hairs. You know exactly how the back of your hand looks from that perspective. But if you magnify your hand under a microscope, you won't see the same skin and creases you become so familiar with. Instead, you might think you're looking at the surface of a strange planet covered with hills and valleys. Turn up the power on your microscope, magnifying your skin 20,000 times, you'll see a field of swarming cells. Magnify it a lot more and you'll see molecules. Magnify these molecules and you'll see the atoms make up these molecules. Magnify those atoms and you'll see the subatomic energy clouds that make up those atoms. The electrons, the protons, the neutrons, and other subatomic particles. It's still the back of your hand, but it looks nothing like the hand you know. So if you glance at it now, your hand looks solid. Slap it down on the table and it makes a nice, substantial thud. Your hand may seem solid, but there's actually a lot of empty space there. At the subatomic level, there are vast distances between each spinning electron. Atoms are 99.9999% empty space. Your hand is 99.999 empty space. If you could remove all the empty space from the atoms in your hand, it would become so small you would need a microscope to see it. It would virtually disappear, although it would still weigh the same and contain the same number of atoms. It may take a moment to comprehend this idea. Your hand seems solid, but it is made of dynamic energy and constant vibration. In fact, physicists now understand that the so-called subatomic particles, which make up the atom, are not really particles at all. They measure the contents of the atom in energy units instead, because it's so much more accurate. So we're talking about, whenever I do work with people, I do kind of start off like this. I say, we're all energetic beings. I tell them up front. I said, you know, obviously if we were to look below the skin, the bones, the skin, the bones, the cells, the atoms, we're just basically energy. We're energy beings. So it's kind of a good way to introduce people to energy healing, because you know, magnets, you know, basically shifts energy. Your thoughts also have an energy attached to it, and that if we're all energy, technically, the floor down there with my feet are touching you, whoever you're watching this right now. Like if you're watching this YouTube video, the floor that I have right now in Las Vegas is technically, if we're all connected, we're all energy. I'm touching the same floor you're touching, and basically we're all connected in some way. And so I think it's very, very fascinating. I think this is we're going to start really getting into some deeper stuff here, but I'm excited to continue this. And so we left off, I believe, where let me see, give you guys a real quick thing. Our thoughts are energy. So page 45, thoughts are energy. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you got some insight on this, and continue with Carson Shields. You'll start on 45, thoughts are energy. So with that, wish you guys the best. Feel free to subscribe below. We're going to finish this book, either 5 pages, 10 pages. We're going to do the whole thing, so you can continue to enjoy watching these videos and hearing some commentary from us. So with that, this is Emmanuel. Also, if you'd like a free session too, you can look down below and get more information down there about that with Carson or myself. But I look forward to seeing you guys in the next chapters. Take care. Bye-bye.